Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Dang, it's coming down hard outside right now. Real hard. Ethan's Life, thanks for tuning in. Dang, it's really pouring outside right now. Look at all that rain we got out there. Swamped us everywhere. Everyone's getting a little bit of action. I saw someone mention Ocala in the comments. You're like right on the outside edge of it. But there's rain falling everywhere. Some embedded stronger stuff right in through there. Yeah, it's coming down real hard outside. I'm surprised it's not getting picked up in the mic. Dun, 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 dun. Palm Bay's right there. How's everybody doing tonight? Port St. Lucie. Yep, Port St. Lucie's right on the outside periphery of it as well, right in through there. Might still get some in that neck of the woods, though. Let's see where this is all moving. It's probably converging over Central Florida, and then it's just going to slowly move east with that shortwave. Yeah, Port St. Lucie, you're up next. You're going to get a little bit of rain here soon. At least if it keeps transitioning as it is. Will Cape Coral have some rain at like 12 a.m. tonight, Florida? I think so. I mean, everyone's going to get a little bit of it. Now that the shortwave is right overhead and we have all this swath of rain that had come off the coastline, or I should say came on the coastline. Good evening, Gabriel. I'm here. We've had a lot of up-and-comings in the tropics. I know everyone's raring to get to that, but we'll spend a little bit of time here looking at the radar and digesting all this thunderstorm activity. Oh, let's turn this on, if I can reach it. Welcome in, Bermuda. Carolyn, good to see you. Miami got hit for the past 2 days yesterday. Yeah, they had the thunderstorm activity blowing up down there first today. It started in the south and then just kind of really worked its way to the north. Now it looks like it's starting to weaken down there. Looks like there might be another little band of shower activity off the coast. Moving towards the Naples area. Right here, what we're seeing, though, is that shortwave trough up at 500 millibars really helping to intensify all this thunderstorm activity. Once it moves out in this general area, that's when we're going to start to see our low form. So this is it, what's coming over us right now. GFS is still going crazy. Superchara's welcome in. Will Miami-Dade see heavy rain? Not tonight, I don't think. No, it looks like everything's moved off to the north now. You guys had some thunderstorm activity I saw earlier this afternoon, but that since has dissipated. All the main energy is right up in through here. But all right, let's get into the tropics. We're 5 minutes deep. Let's go and look over at NHC. They finally brought up our chances to see some subtropical development off of our coastline. Wow, no rain in Jupiter, huh? That's interesting. There's a lot of stuff out there right now. It's not over yet. So maybe something will drop in here in a little bit. We've got 10% formation chance in the next 48 hours, which is weird because tomorrow's Thursday already, and I feel like it should be forming up any moment now. Willow, what are you doing? Come on. If you're going to go out, then stay out. Go, run. Thank you. Tearing up the carpet. Hurricane in Cape Coral. That's a little micro scale level forecast right there. I don't remember saying that. Oh gosh, I can't talk tonight. I'm tired. We've definitely seen some very interesting trends on all of our models, though. Like some of us have already alluded to, the GFS is still going crazy. I don't know what it's doing. I have some folks mentioning that it's very accurate and we got to watch out, and I don't know. I don't know about that one. I don't buy into it. Even at 18 Zulu, we had it coming through the Caribbean and bouncing off of us. Dang, there we go. I was going to say, when is it going to load? This is 18Z GFS that we're looking at right here, going right through the Caribbean and then hooking north. It's very interesting that it wants to hook north, though, because on the latest run of the GFS, we no longer have that weak spot right there. You can see something try to spin up, but then the high pressure up here pushes it south. So that's very interesting that it goes into that high pressure like that. And then wants to be a Cape Hatteras hurricane. But I definitely don't trust it. I don't trust it yet. I'm still having a hard time wrapping my mind around some of the models that are doing some funky things. We have no trends right now. Nothing has trended. I mean, we're trying to get some trends going again. This is 12Z Canadian model, and it brings it into the Caribbean, and then, well, I should say it kind of scrapes the Caribbean and then shoots north. And then it actually continues to translate this one back upstream of it to the west until it hits that weak spot. That one's also going to get sucked out. Maybe it ain't picked it up yet. Yeah, it's possible. It's still so far out. I can't wait for them to designate this as an invest, and we can start getting that good old high-res model data into it. Because the last few days, from last week into this week, we had really good consistency on just about every model besides the GFS. The GFS was being all kinds of dorky. There's Nigel with his huge eye, still managing to hold on to some fair bit amount of intensity. But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what to make of it right now. I mentioned in my video earlier today that we're tracking this little baroclinic system coming on. Actually, this is still 12Z right here. This is going to be the main determinant, I feel like, right there, coming towards the mid-Atlantic states. Because if you look out over the ocean, at this point in time, we have nothing but high pressure steering it this way. I lost my pen. Nothing but high pressure steering it that way. You can see those isobars. So it's when this now here can make its way off the coast and open up our little gap in the pressure gradient. That's what's going to suck it up to the north. Storm off the South Carolina coast. Yeah, I do believe we're going to see something start to develop. I mean, we already have the precursors in place right now. All this rain and thunderstorm activity is our shortwave at 500 millibars moving through. Let's see if we can find a model that'll show it to us in a little bit more higher res than some of the tropical tidbits models. We'll go to, let's see if the NAM Nest has it. I know we can go up a level. No, let's go to the NAM. We'll go down to the southeast, 500 millibar vorticity. Yeah, there it is right there. That was earlier today. So yeah, we have that shortwave right on top of us right now. That's what's going to help to develop our system off the coastline. And there's that other couplet of positive vorticity that spawned the significant weather in the central and southern plains, I should say. So that right there is exactly what we've been talking about. That's what's supposed to work its way through the pattern, and then we'll see a low develop just off the screen right here. Very high confidence that we'll see that take shape. I'm very confident that we will. I mean, we already have the rain and the energy in place. What I meant to say yesterday, nothing will be stronger than Hurricane Lee this year. Yeah, I remember, Corbin. That's okay. I knew what you meant. Think the high pressure could steer it even more west. That's the big thing. We'll have to really keep an eye on that. Because if we go broad perspective, and I'll use the Euro right now, because the Euro is not necessarily the outlier, but it's the one that's been just favoring that northward track. So you go forward in time, and there's our system forming up. And this is why I've been mentioning the last few days that what our southeastern system does is going to be critical in the forward progress of this. Because if this does organize and deepen down and move over the eastern, well, I should say the western, and move over the western and north Atlantic, that's going to help to break down this high and resituate the pattern. So we'll have the jet moving through like this. And as we've seen with pretty much every single storm since flipping Lee, if not just before that. There goes your weakness right there. You can see it bringing the frontal system through. Here's your front right there. So you have all this area here of lowering pressure out ahead of it because of the warm air advection and all this cold air advection. So that's what the model's trying to do here, the Euro is. It's trying to swoop it up into that pocket of lower pressure just out ahead of our front, kind of like what Nigel's doing right now. And then it actually calls for another system to form up off the coastline, also baroclinic in nature. That's not going to be, that's also not going to be tropical, this guy right there. You can see all the temperature gradient back behind it tapping into this polar high right here. All that polar air. So yeah, it's this guy right here, this frontal system, and all that high pressure ridging that's going to try to steer it to the north. But we've got quite a bit of discontinuity with all of our models. Euro has its own depiction of what's going to happen. The Canadian and the Icon model are in a fair bit of agreement. Like, it looks like they're kind of trying to do the same thing now. If you go to the end of the 12Z, right there, you start to see it try to take it to the north, right at the very end. And if you look at that compared to the Canadian model, it's almost spot on. Hi, Carmen. Good evening. Thanks for joining in. If you live anywhere from Costa Rica to Norway, then keep an eye on it. Costa Rica to Norway? I mean, I guess, yeah, if you want to put it that way. But anyways, yeah, so then if we go over to what the GFS is picking up on, which is why it wants to go so far to the west, if you look at what our system does along the east coast, the GFS has it going into the coastline. It doesn't have it going this way like on the Euro solution, and that's where the big difference is. So with where the GFS tracks it into the mid-Atlantic states, you see that right there? And then it disappears. What happens is we don't get as potent of a high pressure coming down just yet. It's not until that low can deepen once more off the northeast coast and still track a little further to the north, then we pull this high down, and that's what steers it up to the north, because as that high comes down and we get a weakness in that synoptic, or not that synoptic, but the baroclinic system off of the coast, that's what drives it up into the north. Oh, shoot, and then the GFS wants to push it back down to the south. Yeah, I don't trust that at all. I don't trust that at all. Remember how Matthew rapidly intensifying in early August? Yeah, so I don't know, Ophelia might be the strongest. I mean, we don't know. It's really going to depend on where it tracks, because a lot of our models during this portion of its life cycle, while it spends time out here in the main development region, everyone's favorite place, all of our models want to keep it weak. It's once we get to that 60-degree longitudinal line right in there somewhere that all the models go haywire for some reason. But yeah, Wilma exists too. Wilma, there's been a lot of pretty solid October storms. We've actually had a decent amount of Cat 5s in October. So for folks who want to dispel October, they need to pump the brakes a little bit, because we've had some pretty substantial Cat 5s, all of which, well, not all of them, excuse me, but the ones I can think of off the top of my head that were Cat 5 hit Florida. Wilma didn't hit as a Cat 5, but did become a Cat 5 in October. Michael was a fantastic example of a Cat 5 hurricane in October. So yeah, who's to say? We'll have to just wait and see. We're in a very big holding pattern right now. We'll have to see what trends and what changes, because just to put it into perspective, for the longest time, and I'm going to use 3 different colors here. I'll show you green. I know, well, no, I'm not going to use green. That's going to blend in with the coloring. All right, I'll use black. For the longest time, the general consensus was it was going to do this, like so. Then all of a sudden last night, all the models were like, nope, it's going in here. And now today, we're back in like the middle point, like so. Some of them still want to do this. Some of them want to do this. Others want to do this. Like, there's such a huge margin of error here, and it's all really going to depend on what happens right in this general area. The Atlantic, for all intents and purposes, we don't have to worry about what happens in the Atlantic. This high pressure right here is going to try to stay there now that Nigel and Lee are out of the picture, as well as Margot. What we really need to pay close attention to is what shakes out in parts of Conus and along the mid-Atlantic coastline. because that's going to be the kicker on how far down our first frontal system earlier in the model run, this 1031 high, comes down. And then that second synoptic system I put in my video earlier today, that's also what's going to really dictate if it'll find a weakness before it gets too far into the Caribbean. And if it gets into the Caribbean, or if it tracks into the Gulf of Mexico, I'm very curious to stay up and see what happens at 0Z. Like, I normally don't want to lose sleep over that kind of stuff unless there's really something pressing, getting ready to hit somebody. But tonight I might do that just to see what the trends look like. Or maybe I'll take a nap or something like that. If you look at the other models, one of the models had it going towards the Gulf, one had it going up the East Coast into New England. Yeah, and that's why I don't understand why people are praising the GFS. Because honestly, I mean, you could tell me the GFS drifted circles around other storms, but right now it's not doing a very good job. This was 0Z this morning. We'll go forward in time, and you can see it taking a very southerly track and then bombing out in the Gulf of Mexico. And what's interesting, too, is if you look, we don't get as strong of a system in interior CONUS. See, there's our system that I've been mentioning that was supposed to weaken the high and allow it to drift north. I'm surprised on this model solution it didn't take this escape path right there with this low. But maybe it's because this high is trying to build back down real quick, and then we have this spinning up out there. So that's probably what's instigating pulling this high down further to the south more than likely. That was 0Z. And then 6Z was way off. Like, look at that. Way off to the north, sucked it out to sea, nothing happened. Way different. And then you go to 12Z today. 12Z today was also very different. Went through the Caribbean and kind of like just destroyed every island in its path. I hate to say it, but you got a 950 millibar low coming into the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Bahamas, and then rapidly deepening back down. Like, that's dangerous for everybody out there. That's rough. But that's 12Z. And then we go to 18Z, and there's kind of a little bit of continuity starting to show up. Kind of does the same thing, run to run, and then moves into the coastline. That's the big change right there, is it moving into the Carolina coast. So the only consistency that we've had was 12 and 18Z. Otherwise, every other run, even last night when we started to see this westward shift, has just been kind of like all over. So that's why I don't know why some folks are coming at other people saying, you know, watch out, it's coming in, Cat 5. It's like, no, come on, guys. That's what you call hype right there. When I start seeing run after run after run after run of different models popping off the same thing, then I'll definitely start to say we might want to raise the alarm. The only area, in my personal opinion, not professional, but personal opinion, that really should be watching right now is just right there. That's it. Just that little box. That's the only area that I truly believe right now needs to pay attention, because all of our models still take it through there. The Euro does, the Canadian model and the Icon get very close, the GFS drives it straight through, so that little spot right there is the only position or only little geographic location that really needs to be watching over the next 5 to 7 days. Otherwise, all of this is entirely speculation. All of that is entirely speculation. We have no consistency whatsoever. We go back to the Canadian model, and we go to 12Z yesterday. We'll look at 12Z. Yesterday, 12Z, it had it forming up way higher in the latitudes down there and then driving up out to sea. No harm, no foul. Then we go to 0Z, and 0Z tracks it straight through the Caribbean. Doesn't want to form it up and then does a beeline, kind of like what the GFS is showing right now. And then we go to 12Z, and once again, it's backpedaled and changed its depiction. It deepens over the Lesser Antilles and then goes up to sea and kind of kicks itself out. The only one that you could technically say has good run-to-run consistency is the Icon, but the only reason it has decent consistency is because it doesn't go out that far. From there, where it originates, all the way through the model run, you can see, I mean, it goes westward. Even 0Z looks like it kind of wants to take it in and then start to shimmy it up to the north at the very last second there. There's a wobble. So Icon's doing fairly well with run-to-run. I don't know if the Euro has changed very much. I think it's one, as someone already mentioned in there, it's been fairly consistent. This was 12Z yesterday. brought it a little further to the west, took its time deepening it, barely made it to tropical storm, and then maybe approaching high-end tropical storm at the end of the run. Let me go back to 0Z yesterday. 0Z had it. Yeah, so there were some deviations with the Euro, too. The Euro definitely pushed it much further to the east, or the west, excuse me. And the Euro didn't even want to develop it at 0Z the night before. And then we have 12Z today. We know what happened with 12Z. 12Z, they bumped it back to the west and then put it out into the Atlantic. And then we have this bad boy deepening off the mid-Atlantic coast. That's going to help to distort the pattern. You got fronts there, and then a big old warm sector stationary boundary frontal system draped all the way back up to this deep occluded low off the Europe coastline. And then all this high pressure sagging in to the north. So there's really no consistency anywhere. The Euro has kind of been fairly consistent, but I mean, it's still wobbling, it's windshield wipering. GFS, if I could kind of give you guys an idea of what the GFS has been doing, GFS has been like this. That's basically the GFS right there in a nutshell. Not even joking. It's my sleepiness getting to me, but that's kind of what the GFS has been predicting. I don't even have any water in here. What a shame, I forgot. So yeah, it's still way too early to call anything. Way too early. Like I said, I see that we're up to 83 viewers now. My main area of concern is just right in there. That's it. I want that location from Puerto Rico eastward through the Antilles. Those locations should be monitoring right now. Everybody else can kind of just keep tabs on it. Everyone else can just keep tabs on it, check in with it every once in a while, but the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico should definitely be watching because it gets a little too close for comfort on all of our model runs. The Euro's the only one that steers it far enough away from Puerto Rico to not pose a threat, but the Lesser Antilles will still feel something with its current solution. Let's see if 18Z is in. And I know the ensembles are doing us no favors either. I'll go to active cyclones on the Euro 12Z. Let's see what the Euro ensembles look like. So yeah, I mean, it still keeps it way out there. Oh, and then look at that. It wants to... Euro has two members thinking that we're going to get a storm developing right over Florida. But yeah, look at that. Look at that spread. Look at that spread. That's a huge spread. What's funny enough, though, is this is the exact same kind of ensemble spread we had with Nigel. Factory Polo, thank you very much. I appreciate that. The GFS is getting a DUI with the... I can 110% support that. Tropics are quieting down. El Nino getting strong. Yeah, they're trying to calm down. I've been talking about that last couple days. Folks don't want to believe it, but we are kind of starting to come down a little bit. Let's look at the GFS ensembles if they've populated. I think we should have 18Z ensembles for GFS, even though I don't really trust 18Z too much. But since it's the most recent data, we'll take a look at it. Let's see, is 18 in? We'll go to the pressure then. Pressure will still let it populate even if we don't have it all in. All right, let's see, 18Z GFS. Yep, so still the same kind of consensus. Nothing really pinpoint in Florida right now. Yeah, nothing pinpoint in Florida. It looks like the swath for GFS is right in through here. Whoops, let me use a better marker. GFS consensus is right in through here mainly. So Bermuda, Carolyn, if you're still in the chat, Bermuda might have to watch. Once again, that same general area needs to watch. And according to the GFS, Haiti, DR, and the Bahamas might have to monitor as well as we go down the road. Not right now. Not right now. Definitely way too early to start monitoring. I've also been noticing people on YouTube and social media mentioning, we got to carefully watch. And it's like, guys, it's way the heck over here right now. We have about 5 more days until it gets close enough to where we know if it's going to go north or if it's going to go into the Caribbean. So, first things first, Lesser Antilles need to start watching. From there, it's up in the air. We don't know much yet. It's this 60-degree west longitude line. Our systems just don't seem to like it. They're definitely trying to propagate in more of a fish storm-like area. PM, we can't call it too early because there's definitely lots of moving pieces. Can't start trying to narrow down this large margin of error so early. The most we know is we're going to go from here to here. That's the most we are very confident in. Then some of our models want to bring it very close. Some want to eject it. Some want to take it straight through. We're so split down the middle that we can't really start predicting that far out. And Nigel's evacuating out of there quicker, so if he's not leaving much of a wake, then that'll also play a bit of a role in where this goes. Because I know Nigel's been speeding up. In fact, let's take a look at his forward progress right now as of 8 o'clock. 5 o'clock. He's picked up even more speed. He's moving at 18 miles an hour. So by middle of the day tomorrow, he's going to be so far to the north that it's probably not going to do very much for our pattern down there. He's already upwards of the 40, 45 degree latitude line. So that might help close the gap just a little bit. So we'll have to see. We got to see. That's all. Well, yeah, but Nigel was kind of like clockwork. We definitely saw that one coming. Plus, we had all these different frontal systems brewing off the coastline that really helped kick it out fast. Because when you think about it, we had Lee here when Nigel formed up right about here and started to move north. And Lee took his sweet time getting through there and then accelerated. We're expecting Nigel to be here tomorrow while this is still down here. So a much larger area of influence. And look at how this high pressure is already trying to spill back to the south. And then the pattern is also shifted a little bit too. If you looking at this windy overlay, since we don't have a low pressure here, we have one here. We have high pressure ridging off the coast. And that frontal system is all doing this right now. So there's a blockade right there. We have a blockade through there. We have a blockade right in through here I can see. So there's your path of least resistance. And with Nigel moving in quick, it would either need to take that turn by tomorrow, if not Friday, to move north. If not, that area is going to close up. Because you got to remember, we still have advection happening off the coast here, and Nigel's going to speed that up. And then Nigel's also going to start pulling in some return flow around this area too. So all that low pressure, that pocket of lower pressure is just going to very quickly, it's here right now, but since this front's going to accelerate thanks to Nigel's influence, especially once he gets up in here and goes post-tropical, that whole thing is just eventually going to move this way, and then we're just going to have everything close off. So the margin of error for it to move north is shrinking. Wait until storm forms in low-level center before saying anything. Yeah, that's what I've been saying. We're so far out, and you look at windy right now, as a matter of fact, and it looks even worse than what I saw earlier. When I was making my video, it looked a little bit more concentrated. I don't know if it's the islands here kind of distorting the wind pattern since we're down at the surface. Let's go to 925. Yeah, 925, I mean, it's trying. We have a little bit of wraparound flow on the bottom of it now, but it still looks like a very aggressive wave. Trying to close off, though. Let's see if it translates up. 850. Yeah, we're starting to translate up. Not too much in the way of a mid-level reflection yet. Yeah, and then we just have a tropical wave by the time you get to the 700 millibar level, so it's trying its best. I think it's going to maintain a fairly weak appearance until it can get a few more days out ahead. Right up in through here. Where did Odell's Legancy come from? Move across the Caribbean, affect the southern part of Florida, and go to the Gulf. That's what the storm is reminding me of at George's 98. I just realized that the real reason this season is so active is because of this dang list. It's cursed for some reason. Been saying this will not be a concern. Fronts are happening because of El Nino. Well, we'll have to see. I'm not going to go saying anything. When you start predicting this far out, that far out, when you're way over here and you have 7 to 10, if not almost 12, 14 days between there and there, I'm not going to say anything. Nigel's going to do something with the pattern. Some of the models are actually predicting round 2 of a subtropical system, or at least a baroclinic jet-supported low off the coast of Florida, so that could do things. If we get another one of those, that's going to mess with the pattern. The only major concern would be West Caribbean and Gulf. I follow Certified Met in Tampa. Dennis Phillips, he knows a lot. He's not concerned. I concur. Well, I mean, absolutely. Certified, I mean, about 75% of the way there, so I don't have the degree just yet, but if you want to measure up paperwork, then for sure. But I agree with Fumchum. Yeah, no degree or knowledge can predict this far out. I mean, you see the ensemble trends, and it's safe to say for now that it'll do this, but we didn't anticipate what happened at 12Z yesterday. Yesterday, I was sitting and chilling. Everyone was talking about how we have to watch, and even I, if you guys remember the last live stream, I had mentioned, nope, that one's not going to be a problem. It's going out to sea. We'll be fine. And then all of a sudden, we had that big old thing. We had that big shift yesterday, so threw us for a bit of a loop. So that's why I'm not too comfortable saying a yay or nay. All I'm saying is, as of right now, this is the only area that I want really paying attention to this. That's it. That's the only area that I can say with a fair bit of confidence, because of what we've seen over the last 24, 36 hours, that needs to pay attention. Everyone is still stirred up about Lee. Yeah, well, the only reason I'm still mentioning Lee is because of what he did with our pattern. He transitioned to a post-tropical mature wave all the way up here, and that's why we have the frontal system and the system beginning to develop across our southeast quadrant. So he messed up the pattern, and Nigel's going to try to do the same thing, especially with it accelerating so fast off to the north and east. Oh, yeah, no, I agree, PM. That's the whole thing's been a learning process. In fact, there's things I'm still continuing to learn just by digesting all this stuff as recurringly as I am. So it's good stuff. Just because of the fact that I'm the one putting out these videos and publicizing this stuff for you guys, that's the reason I'm not comfortable with making a judgment call with 10 to 12, maybe even 2 weeks in front of this thing. So that's the only thing. My biggest thing, and I wanted to make sure to mention that in my video, is right there. I'm going to keep hammering that home. Right there is the only area that really needs to just be cognizant right now. Everybody else can take their hand off the, or I should say take the foot off the gas and just go to coasting or let it idle. Once we get to about the middle of the MDR, that's when we'll have a bit more of a picture. Let's see, as a matter of fact, what the timing is on that. Let's start doing a little bit more forecasting. So, wow, dare I say it, we're going to use GFS just because it's one of the more updated. Actually, no, we'll use Icon. We'll use the Icon for right now. Let me go to Tropical Atlantic AOI. This is the cardinal hour. It's 0Z, so 8 p.m. And we are right here. There's our system. Let me increase the size there. There we go. So we are right there on the cardinal hour, right there. So now let's track this out in time. So by tomorrow evening, it'll be here. And Nigel's already out of the picture. So we go forward in time to Friday night, and it'll be there. So yeah, I'm thinking as we wake up as we wake up Saturday morning, we'll start to get a better idea of what's going on. The colder water won't affect its direction that much, although its strength can be greatly affected. Yeah, that's for sure, but what we do now is this will be a hurricane threat for the Caribbean, potentially a major, I don't know, I'm hesitant to say that too, because with intensity trends, that's one thing we can kind of lean in with a little bit of faith, is everybody's keeping this fairly weak until it gets to about the Caribbean if it wants to enter in. Like even the GFS keeps it at 1,000 millibars until beginning of next week, and then we finally start to see it do the classic rapid intensification into the Caribbean. I don't know what the GFS is thinking in that department. That's very interesting, but Yeah. I mean, yeah. So by Friday, it'll be somewhere just about in the middle of the MDR, and by Friday night, wow, yeah, so by Friday night, Nigel will no longer play a role. By Friday night, if this thing doesn't start to move to the north soon, let me see. Yeah, if it doesn't move north by Friday into Saturday, then all this is going to be closed off. That's all northerly flow right there. It could drift to the north, but then it'll push back to the west, or it'll just sort of meander out there. And I think what's going to inevitably happen, which is why I'm still very interested to see what the Euro does over the next few days. Euro wants to keep that low strong, and that's the reason it brings it out to sea so fast. Because since the jet is running over top of these features like this, as that shortwave and low pressure center move off to the north and eventually the northeast, it's going to break down that high that just repositioned itself and move it off to the east as well. And that's what's going to open up that pocket for it to go north like that. And then we get that next system. So very many, a lot of moving pieces out there. It's not going to make our lives easy. It's not going to be a 1, 2, 3. Can you show up aerodynamics for the Atlantic? Yeah, absolutely. We'll use the Euro 12Z. We'll do 200 millibars just to see what's up there. Because, yeah, there it is. We have that jet max running atop the ridge, and then we have more jet energy finally clearing that spin over the southeast out as that low translates to the east, and that's what's going to open up our channel right there. We get a little bit of a trough axis, a very lopsided trough axis digging in up and through here, pushing south with all that cold air. So that's what it is. It's where the positioning of our low pressures along the coast in Nigel are what really is dorking up the pattern right now. We have that negatively tilted trough aloft, and that's what's going to help to kind of kick the top portion or the northernmost apex of the ridge out and open up that weakness for it to move north. Reminds me of Matthew or George is like it's Popeye eating spinach and strong. That's what I think of rapid intensification. What do you think? Yeah, no, Maddie, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's just eating hot water and blowing its top. Anyone seen the ocean heat content in the Caribbean right now? Yeah, OHC is pretty high out there. That's because it's been untapped. It's back. It's resurged from when Idalia went through there, and that was even the western periphery of it. Yeah, I saw that, Maddie. What else we got? 1 out of 100% of it hitting Florida. Yeah. Very, very low threat. Okay, weather center, can you pull up the continental U.S. map to snow over the Rockies? Yeah, I will in a second. We're already getting towards the back end of the stream. Still too much discontinuity out there. Right now, all we're doing is speculation, so I don't want to spend too much time hammering this home. But let's go United States and take a look. As a matter of fact, we'll also use WPC, because WPC has this stuff on their charts. Let's go fronts. There you go. This is going to be overnight tonight. You can see all that mixed precip and snowfall over the higher terrain of the Rockies coming in with that baroclinic system. And yeah, look at that. This is what I've been talking about, guys. I knew that wasn't going to be tropical. We had so many people, and what's crazy too is we had a lot of meteorologists even mentioning on television that was going to be a tropical storm. And I'd been trying to tell everybody, I know tropical meteorology, but I'm even more versed in synoptic meteorology. Your true jet-supported frontal systems and all that, baroclinicity, barotropicness, etc., etc. And from day one, when that thing started to show up on our models, I was trying to tell everyone it's not going to be a tropical storm. I've seen rumors of people even saying Carolina's got to watch out for a hurricane, and it's like, no, we don't. Come on. Even if it does start to take on subtropical characteristics, the fact that it is subtropical in nature is going to keep it fairly weak. We could see maybe a mid to top end tropical storm at the very best. It's not going to bomb out and blow up over the Gulf Stream. It's just not what they're mechanically designed to do. Do I agree with we could get into the do I think we could get into the 990s if it does deepen down? Absolutely. But then again, we see a lot of, baroclinic systems do that over the United States when we have enough jet support and a good trough picking it up. I've seen a lot of in media saying it. It's just, yeah, you're right. And that's why the last couple of days I've really dialed up messing around with people, friends of mine and all that, offline, talking about the hype. Everyone's hyping it up because, first of all, they're labeling it wrong. And typically I won't make such a fuss over a label. And I've even heard other YouTube channels mention that too. There's some people getting mad because we're saying tropical versus subtropical. It doesn't make a difference. And actually, it makes a lot of difference because tropical is compact. Tropical is very aggressive. Tropical gets very destructive and can deepen fast because of how concentrated its center is. When you have a low of this nature or a subtropical system, the only thing tropical about it is the thunderstorm activity. That's it. That's the only thing. Otherwise, all the rest of the dynamics are, all the other dynamics in play are all what you'd see with a typical wintertime storm minus the snowfall because it's forming over warmer water. That's the only difference is when it trickles from the top down, you get all that upper level support and it's a reflected down to the surface, whereas tropical comes up from the surface aloft. And the only thing that changes with subtropical is as it reflects down, it interacts with the warmer temperatures down in the low levels, and that's when you get more bubbling convection. And it's not even really for the same reason that tropical systems do it. Tropical systems, they blow up because of all the releasing of heat and the circulation of energy within their centers. The reason we start seeing more tropical characteristics with these kind of lows is because of the fact that there's such temperature discontinuity. It's cold core. So we're going to get that cold core thunderstorm activity, and that warm water is only going to feed the individual updrafts of those storms. So, well, we have a full-on war of the worlds right now, or war of the snowfall going on in here. But yeah, anyways, backpedaling Elite Chief Stark, I know you guys are listening still. That's the big thing. I got really frustrated throughout the week, or throughout the weekend into this week. Everyone's saying, batten down the hatches. And I knew it was going to happen too. Once NAC started highlighting that thing off the coast right there, once they put that stamp on it, I had a bad feeling everyone was going to fixate on it because we had Lee and Margot and Nigel and all that, and everyone's going to be like, oh, snap, development, tropical, boom, and that's it. And it's like, no, you guys, you gotta slow it down just a little bit. There's a time to hype, and then there's a time to pump the brakes. So yeah, that's my spiel on it. I can't wait until this becomes an invest, though. Once that becomes an invest, the path ahead will start to open up a little bit. Let's get ready to close out the live stream by looking at the satellite imagery of it. Still have all my video tabs pulled up. Pay no attention to that. Let's go to satellite, Atlantic. We'll go to Eastern Atlantic and try to get a feel for it. Had some good thunderstorm activity when it came off the coast. Looks like we're trying to get a little bit of spin in it. Trying to, very slowly, in the back end of the loop, if the satellite stops lagging, you can kind of see a little bit of northern cyclonic turning in the cloud features. A little bit. So it's there, it's out there, it's moving. Definitely moving, and it's going to, at least for the next couple of days, by Saturday, we'll have something out in this general area, and we'll have a better know of what's going to happen with it. And maybe by then we'll have a designation of, invest, so we can get a better look at it and start taking a look at high-res information. If not an invest, then we might have a tropical depression by that point, so we'll have to see what happens. All in all, though, this one I think is going to be critical we get the high-res models on it. And the only reason I say that is not to alarm folks. It's just because of the fact that our models have done some huge shifts. And when you really sit and think about it, we haven't seen that at all this year. Going back to what PM was saying earlier, I agree with what you were saying during the initial portions of the live stream. Lee, Margot, and even Nigel, they kind of moved like clockwork. We didn't have a whole lot of deviations in our model tracks. There were some subtle shifts, but wasn't too much in the way of, like wide right or wide left. In this case, we did have a pretty big shift. We had a pretty massive shift, especially for GFS and Icon, and even the Canadian for one run. We had a big shift at one of our hot model runs, too. That's the thing. If it were a 18 or 6Z, where it was just kind of going off of continuity, that would be, we can dismiss that a little bit. But the fact that it was a 12Z hot model run and all the deterministic models had just taken in that new analysis data from upper air Raywensons, it's interesting. They're picking up on something. So we're going to get ready to close out the stream just because I see everyone's ranting and raving right now about snowfall. That's pretty much all I've got for the tropics, though. We're still in a holding pattern. Some big updates that kind of threw us for a loop overnight, but they've backpedaled down and nothing to be overtly concerned about just yet. I mean, the GFS still paints doom and gloom. Like, that's, even if it doesn't come towards Florida, that's pretty bad. If something along these lines holds true, then that's bad for a lot of people. So, we're in a holding pattern. Still a little far out, Devil. Still a little far out. So we gotta wait and see. Let's get some consistency going. We've only had 24 hours, give or take, since this big shift to the west. And like I'd mentioned in yesterday's video, it could be an instance of we're gonna go west and then we're just gonna go back to the north again and stay like that. Once we start getting some progression in the way our models handle this, we can start talking a little more serious about it, I hope a hurricane comes to my home. Empress Athena, where are you? Are you in the Caribbean? Are you somewhere local? Or models are what I call noise, too much going on? Yeah, that's why I've been looking at ensembles, even though the ensembles are really not helping us out too much. They've been very all over the place. Factory Polo, of course. Thank you guys for tuning in. Everything I do is for you guys. I know it sounds very cliche and silly, but, it's true. It's very true. Came on here just to get myself out there and start talking to folks, and it's been glorious talking to everybody, even if we go into long tirades about snowfall in the live chat. Linda, you're very welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, okay. Empress, what part? Yeah, look at that. That's the end of the GFS, and we have something right here. Nazario, is it true that Arizona and New Mexico see snow in the summer? Yeah, actually, I can 150, 70, whatever % testify to that. Yeah, I actually have some pictures on my car Instagram when I was stationed in Tucson, Arizona. We got snow on the ground in town. Let me see if I can pull it up before we end the stream. I'll try to scroll through quickly. Hurry up. But yeah, I was in southern Arizona for a number of years doing the weather out there for Western CONUS, and that's where I got a lot of my experience in synoptic meteorology, doing the charts for North and South America. Shucks, it's going to probably take me a while to follow. Oh, here we go. I don't know if you guys can see this, but that was in the focus camera. Are you going to focus? I don't think it's going to focus. It's trying to focus. There we go. That was in Tucson, like actual central Tucson, in town, not on the mountains. Mountains get a lot of snow out there, but we've had a number of instances where we got a lot of snow in the desert. Let me see. I think I'm missing some folks in the chat. I'm seeing it pop off. Thank you for the stream. Very welcome, Devil. Very welcome. This sounds weird to say, but very welcome. Yes, more people from Florida wishing for a hurricane. It gives us something to talk about. It gives us weather enthusiasts something to get hyped for. We got to fuel the hype train. You are my new fave, the Hive. Thank you. That means quite a bit. I genuinely thank you for that. Hive, I thank you. Fort Lauderdale. Very good. Okay. That's not too far for me. It's a little bit of a road trip. Not too bad. Fort Lauderdale's a nice area, though. We'll see what happens. Thank you for tuning in, though, Empress. I haven't seen you in the chat, so thank you for tuning in tonight. Snow in Florida, it could happen. Scrooge McDuck, yeah, we've had snow in the Panhandle before. Been a few times. I saw snow at Pikes Peak in July. Tampa here. I hope a hurricane don't come to my house. Mike, I would definitely... we'll zoom in, and I'll show you real fast before we cut the stream, but, this is why I don't want to get too overzealous with everything. Because at 0Z last night, GFS had a landfall. Why the heck did my pen shrink so much? Shucks. GFS had a landfall there. And now for the day today, we've had the system moving out here. Like, look at that huge margin of error right there. Like, let's say, hypothetically, it did move to the west. That's still a giant margin of error. So let's say that the GFS initialized well and it did come to the west. We still have this giant cone of uncertainty right there. So, but with the recent trends in the last 3 model runs, for Mike out there, I don't think the West Coast has too much to worry about, but we'll continue to watch. We're just, we're investigating right now in the very early stages of development. I want you to make videos about convective thunderstorms and other work, like educated about weather topics that have very in-depth knowledge of the hive. Thank you. Actually, a few people have suggested that. I've wanted to try to do that. One of my former students at the school I used to work at told me I should start doing educational material as well, and I was going to do an ensembles versus operational models comparison and breakdown, and then, yeah, I would not mind talking convection. I think one that we would really benefit from is the life cycle of a stable, unstable wave, because that's what we have going on off the coastline, and so many people were yelling tropical, and it's like, pump the brakes, that's not what's happening. Will it rain in Orlando tomorrow again? A little bit. It's going to be a little more spotty. We're going to have that short wave moving through, so we're going to actually get the downward, or the upstream side of it where you get that downward vertical motion. Carolyn, absolutely. It's what I'm here for. It's a fun time talking weather with everybody. Bermuda, I'm definitely going to keep you guys on my microscope too, because the ensembles for both the Euro and the GFS, quite a few of them want to bring it in your general direction, so even if it does end up becoming, quote, a fish storm for us, doesn't mean that it won't be a fish storm for you guys, or that it will be for you guys. Is it going to start to calm down? Tropics? Yeah, I think so. At least for now. We'll see what happens as we get into October. It's only the 20th. Dang, September's flying. Getting excited for the new Saw movie coming out following week. Hyped for that, if we have any horror movie fans in here. See, I'm not just an uneducated hyper like once thought. No, Famchama, anybody could be hundreds and hundreds upon years of experience and educated and degreed, etc., doctored up, and you could be as hyped as you want. And that's where you have to draw a line between experience and hype, inexperience and hype, because the most experienced person is gonna hype when it needs to be hyped. Folks who don't know any better are going to hype just to hype. And that's what I'm starting to notice during my time on YouTube, is I'm starting to notice the folks who will hype, it deepened 1 millibar in 3 hours, rapid intensification. That's where you got to avoid. Do you think New York is on your microscope too, Mr. Nazario? Maddie? No, not right now. Not right now. You guys you're looking very green right now. South Carolina will get a lot of rain. Yes, Stuart, absolutely. That's a big thing. I definitely think you guys are going to get a lot of rain, and it might not be thunderstorm in nature. It's probably going to be a lot more stratiform. You might get some convection right along the coastline, but interior parts of the mid-Atlantic states, you're going to see a lot more stratiform wraparound precip from this system because it's, subtropical in nature. Thanks for thinking of us here. Oh, yeah, Carolyn, of course. I know we got a lot of people out there, whether they're watching my content or not. I know that Bermuda is not just an island for vacationing and nobody's out there, a remote location. Let's see. I love the Saw movies. Heck yeah. Definitely excited for that. I'm trying to go to Disney Springs and watch it when it releases. We'll see. And then we got Five Nights at Freddy's next month. That's pretty excited. I mean, I guess I'll take Five Nights at Freddy's. It's a nice replacement. I was really living the dream when we had the Halloween trilogy to look forward to. Super pumped for that. That was something I'd hype up. Even with the last movie being as garbage as it was, that's when you'll see me go full hype train. Oh, it's Michael Myers. It's going to be great either way. And dang, were we disappointed when we left. Gabriella Tito, I know it was in November and only like a cat one, but don't forget we had Nicola. Yes, yeah, we always have that one anomalous storm. You never know. And I absolutely agree. And that is not hype right there. Some folks will call it hype, but I know everybody had dropped their radar and everybody was counting Nicole out. When that thing formed out in the central Atlantic as a raggedy-looking subtropical low, nobody was thinking, this is just going to be rain, it's going to fizzle out, and the next thing you know, wake up one morning, Cat 1 hurricane making landfall East Florida. So, Have a good day. I mean, night. Either way, I appreciate that. That movie is made from my true life story. What the? Okay. I hope that's not your true life story. The 18Z has that system hitting the Carolinas after the Lesser Antilles. They're moving back south. Yeah, that's why I don't trust it. I don't trust it. We'll get a little closer in time, and then maybe we'll see something. Nazario U. University Education. What's that, PM? What do you mean, U University Education? Thanks a lot, Elite Chief Stark. I'm going there Friday. Will it rain again in Orlando tomorrow? Phase, like I mentioned, will be on the backside of this shortwave, so I don't think we're going to see too much rain tomorrow. We could see some very light stuff. Let's take a look. I think since we're on the backside of that trough, though, it's going to clear us out for the most part. Yeah, we'll see a little bit of residual stuff later in the day as that system starts to deepen down and form off the coast. You see, look at that. The NAM wants to take it right into the coastline. And look at all that stratiform precip wrapping around. That's what that is. That's not going to be really heavy thunderstorm activity. Because if you think about it, you can draw it like a textbook baroclinic system. There's our frontal system right there, a cold front. And then this is all warm sector right there. So all this overrunning moisture is just going to dump all that steady rainfall across, across the Carolinas, parts of Virginia, moving up into the Northeast as it kicks off. Closer to the center, because of that cold core, that's where you're going to see more thunderstorm activity, some thunder, lightning, higher winds. Nicole was because of La Nina, not likely this year. Yeah, that's fair. Pont Vedra Beach Temps is wonderful. Wish I could stay like this all year. I agree. And turn towards us in Florida on the East Coast. Yep, dark. You can make a playlist of weather education and call it Nazario University. Nazario U sounds nice. I'm going to write that down. I'll genuinely write that down right now. I'm going to put that in my notes right here. I like that. Always in the realm to improve on my content for everybody. Because if I'm ever going to go broadcast meteorologist, I want to make sure I build as much of a resume on here as possible so when future employers try to put a name to a face, they have all this to go off of. So that'd be kind of cool. Appreciate the idea. Thank you. I think there will be a last-minute curve with this wave. You mean like north out to sea? Because that's kind of what it's looking like right now. I just moved from Minnesota to Florida West Coast. What are the effects usually of an eastern coast hit? I know every hurricane is different. It depends on where you are, PEXed, and that's kind of an open-ended question. There's so many things that go into it. Because, I mean, for example, we'll just take Hurricane Ian last year. He came ashore as like a borderline Cat 5 over southwest Florida. But me being in central Florida, only a couple miles, like maybe like 60, 70 miles to the north, we'll say 100 at best, we didn't really see too much in central Florida because it moved just a hair further to the east when it came ashore and took forever. So it really weakened down from a Cat 4, borderline Cat 5 down to a tropical storm. Whereas with Charlie, for example, coming on right about the same point, moving to central Florida as fast as it did, we definitely saw way more in the realm of Category 2 gusts in central Florida, sustained winds of Category 1 intensity, 75, 80 mile an hour sustained winds. So that's the big thing. Depends on where it comes ashore. Depends on where it's moving, if it moves slow, if it moves fast, where you are in relation to the storm, if you're going to be in the dirty side, the strong side, so many different variables. But good question. It really, I wish I had more for you, but it really just depends. Gabriella, I agree. This El Nino has been fairly unusual because it almost seems like it wasn't even there for the most part. Let's see. This right on in Cape Coral. Yep. Eye over me, Pine Island. Yeah, I remember that. No, Tampa didn't get hit by Charlie. Tampa turned in right at the last second, right in the general area that Ian came ashore. Fort Myers, Punta Gorda took a direct blow from it, decimated it. These hurricanes just keep on coming even if they're out to sea. Idalia was the worst storm surge event since 1993. Yeah, even though some people still want to downplay Idalia, man, that also frustrated me. Watching all the coverage and the videography coming in from that area, and everyone was like, nothing happened. It was fine. Everyone's hyping it up. It's like, guys, how can you hype up what you're seeing? Like, come on. This isn't the Santa Claus. Seeing is believing, and believing is seeing. Like, no, this is actually happening. I think there will be one landfall this October, not trying to hype. We'll see. We'll see. It's all a matter of speculation right now. But folks, we are past 9 o'clock. It is 9:01. Let's wrap up by looking at our National Weather Service radar one last time. It looks like all of our embedded activity is really starting to wash out, too. We're just mainly getting a widespread rain event across most of Florida. A little bit of embedded convection trying to flare up again over northern periphery of Orlando, northern Orange County. Yeah, moving here definitely sparked my interest. I've been watching you and Mitch West recently. Mitch West is also pretty good. Definitely good choices. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I appreciate it. I remember they projected Ian for landfall in Tampa Bay, then it turned rapidly. Yep, both Charlie and Ian did that like clockwork. Both of them hiked east at the very last second. I'm talking very last second, right before landfall. So yeah, maybe on Friday the 13th, what we'll do is, I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I mean, Friday the 13th is a little less than a month away now, about 3.5 weeks away. Not only am I going to pop on one of my Jason masks for the live stream just to be silly, but maybe we'll talk a little bit about Charlie and the impacts and influence that it had on Florida back on Friday the 13th of 2004. When will you be live again, FaZe? Friday night at 8 p.m. We do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 p.m. Tropics Talk. I will, hammer it home to you guys if we're going to break into a random live stream. Only time we'll break in for a random live stream is if something big happened. I know yesterday some folks were commenting on my video mentioning we should do a live, and trust me, my inner weather nerd was like, ooh, we got to hype up. But no, I figured it's not too pressing. If it were closer and we saw something more definitive happen that could pose a threat for lots of people, then I'd be like, okay, we got to break in. We got to go live at the last second. So I'll tell you right now, guys, and this is a disclaimer. I'll put it in the chat, too, just so we can kind of remind that. If we break in for a random live outside of normal viewing hours, something is wrong. I'll let you know that right now. If you see something come up, and I promise it's not going to be a hype situation. If I break live and there's something big I want to talk to everybody about immediately, it's not just to say, oh, it looks like it could do this. No, it's going to do this, and we got to start preparing, like it's definitive. And that's the reason I would break in and break our usual viewing pattern. So if we break in a random live outside of normal viewing hours, then something's wrong. You can say, Houston, we have a problem. I just want to rain with a mane. A rain with a name. Ian was pretty scary for my area, but only ended up getting some beautifully clouded skies and some gusts of Dahlia, then directly went over my town and got directly inside the eye. Wow. Ian did not surprise me. Charlie did, because it turned 3 hours before Ian was one day before. Yeah, Charlie was moving in fast. And at the very last second, National Hurricane Center didn't even catch it either. That's what's crazy about Charlie. Like, I remember it was some of the local weather stations. I was watching Tom Terry like a hawk. I was 13-year-old David, and I was watching Tom Terry every 30 seconds. I'd be like, is Tom Terry back on? Is it a tropical update? And I remember he broke in. They broke in. My parents are watching something on TV, and out of nowhere, it said breaking news, WFTV, and it tuned in right to Tom Terry. And they remember Bob Opsahl and Marty Salt at the desk were like, we want to get right over to the chief meteorologist, Tom Terry, because he has breaking information on Charlie. And he said, National Hurricane Center has not caught up. I want you to ignore what they're saying. This is the latest information. And that's when he mentioned that it was right here moving in like this as opposed to going towards Tampa. Like literally as last second as you could get. So that was pretty exciting. That was one of those moments where it was like, you just don't know. That's why I like Charlie so much. I'll rant and rave about Charlie day in and day out. Florida might have to watch out for the Carrie this October. Maybe. Willow. But all right, before we get any more off track, I'm seeing the viewers are starting to drop down again. Let's go ahead and start wrapping up the stream. We'll come back again Friday night, 8 p.m. I watched Channel 10. I was like, where is the storm? Who was on Channel 10? Because I know I used to watch a lot of Channel 9, WFTV, West 2 News, Fox every once in a while, but not too much. Channel 13 with their Weather on the Ones. I used to watch that a lot. The 21 and 51 past the hour tropical updates were a big thing. And then I remember the good old classic Local on the 8s. Maybe that's what I'll show on Friday the 13th. There's actually a whole loop on YouTube of all the Local on the 8s of Charlie coming through Florida. It's very nostalgic. I get goosebumps watching it because it just flashes me back to 2004. I don't blame Meteor. No, I don't blame him either. It's crazy how last minute it was. And it was so last minute that nobody caught it. If it weren't for people breaking in the way that they were, then no one would have known. And that's the scary part. Because it did happen at the very last second, and it changed everything. Dick Fletcher, WTSP. There we go. Okay, I'm familiar. That rings a bell. Nancy Lorenz, thank you, and have a great night as well. We'll hopefully see you back on Friday. I was born 2 years after Charlie. My immediate family lived in the area when it was flooded, and I told my mom I had to kayak through the waters and fell to the... Yeah. That's one thing we got lucky with. I mean, there was still a lot of flooding, but Charlie moved so fast that the storm surge wasn't as bad as it could have been. That was the one godsend. The wind and the rain was hellacious, but the storm surge wasn't too bad. But all right, folks, I hate to cut it out, or I hate to cut it off, willy-nilly like this. 2004 was good. Halo 2 came out. Ooh, you know what? I don't know if he's still in here, but my buddy and I, Gabriel, were just running some Halo Master Chief Collection not too long ago. Good times. Halo 2, like the peak of first-person gaming until we hit the Modern Warfare era, the original Modern Warfare era. I live near Tampa. We were expecting the storm. Ian was not last minute. There was no excuse. Yeah, no. Ian definitely, it slowed way down, and it started to adjust, like you were saying, about 18, 24 hours before moving in. I remember last year when I was working as a personal trainer, too, I kept trying to tell people, like, just take a look at it, and this was 2 days before it hit. Like, it's going to move further east. It's coming in, so we definitely had a bit more lead time with Hurricane Ian. I almost said Lee. PTSD from all the videos I made with Lee. Lee. Yeah, I need to end that. I need to end it for sure. Yeah, Halo 5 requisitions, no one talks about that. These people distracting you. I know. Did you try Mortal Kombat? Yeah, I've played Mortal Kombat a few times. I remember Brian Norcross talking South Florida through Hurricane Andrew. Wow, that's a nice throwback right there. Still playing those games just on PC instead of console. Yeah, as I get older, I can't help it. Sometimes I'll run it, and the only time I'll play is if I actually have friends to game with. Otherwise, I'm not really gonna put in a whole lot of time, except for Resident Evil. I'll mention that that's a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. Every now and again, I'll sit down and play a good Resident Evil game. But all right, guys, for those of you asking, we'll go ahead and... Brad's here. You just missed all the hype. I'm just kidding. We didn't hype anything. Yep, we're hyping up. No, I'm actually hyping up Hurricane Charlie back in 2004. For my new viewers, if you're still there, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Tropics Talk, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll reconvene on Friday night again if you guys aren't too busy. I know Friday's kind of a bit of a particular evening to do a live stream, especially at 8 p.m. That's like right around a late dinner time. People are out and about, whatnot. But yeah, that'll just about wrap it up. We'll come back to hype some Friday night live with you guys at 8 p.m. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Carmen, thank you so much for being such a religious viewer. I appreciate that. And when I say religious, I mean just consistently tuning in. For all you know, you could be very religious. I'm just, clearing the air right there. But thank you very much to you guys for tuning in as religiously as you guys are. It definitely means a lot. Hopefully we can get these streams way upwards of 1,000 viewers one day. Lord willing. That's the goal long term. Might have to wait until next hurricane season to get there, but Lord knows I've been working and grinding, trying to balance, the personal life with the YouTube life. It truly is a grind at the end of the day, and it is very tiring. But we're doing the thing, and if it wasn't for you guys, there wouldn't be a thing. So I really appreciate it. It goes a long way. Lady Ross, real fast, nothing right now. You're definitely not seeing anything tropical right now. You're gonna be just fine. We got that low forming up. It's gonna be like a traditional lower pressure center. You're gonna get a lot of rain, some elevated winds, but nothing crazy, nothing dangerous. But all right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. We'll talk soon. I'll see you Friday night at 8 p.m. for our next live Tropics Talk. And we'll see you tomorrow for any big updates in terms of what the next Weather Center episode looks like. I believe we're on episode 37 now of the 2023 series. I think that's what I'm going to call it. We'll call them seasons. And this is the 2023 season. And episode 37 is coming out tomorrow. So we'll see you guys soon. Thank you, Nazario. Take care and have a good night. You all have a great night as well. This is Weather Center Nazario, signing out.